This is a hands-on exercise for creating work planes. I've already created a blank IPT for you called work planes / hands-on. We're going to open this up, and the first thing we're going to do is create a new sketch, of course. And if you come in here and we're going to find a work plane to work on, the XY plane is fine. Right click on it, say new sketch. And then we're going to come up here and we're going to hit the circle command, regular center point circle. We're going to start from our origin point. We're going to do an 18mm circle. And I try to mix up the templates from imperial to metric, depending on where you are and who you're working with. You may be working with one or the other. In my line of work, I work with a Japanese company a lot in the United States. And so that means I work with both imperial and metric drawings, depending on if we're having it made over here or over there for the plants here in the US. So it is getting more and more common to have these mixed environments. So as we go through some of these hands-on lessons, I will try to mix it up on purpose so that you can see how Inventor handles multi-unit environments. So sometimes you will have a imperial template with metric measurements or vice versa. So if you accidentally forget, Inventor is very forgiving and it will allow you to keep going. It's not the end of the world if you do mess up. So once we get this 18mm circle in here, we're going to go to the extrude command. And we're going to extrude it out in both directions so it'll be symmetrical. Get this out of my way here. 25mm. Hit OK. Then we're going to come in here and we're going to create a new 2D sketch on the end of this. And you see how I did that? I just selected 2D sketch and selected the end of my part here. And we're going to do a 12mm circle. Good, go up to finish sketch, say extrude, and this time let's extrude 25mm again. So you should have something that looks like this. If you notice, all our work planes are centered down my part here. I'm going to find the XY plane and I'm going to turn it on. And I'm going to go up to the mirror command, which looks like an M with a line through the middle of it. First thing it'd ask me, top to bottom, left to right for all Autodesk products, is do I want to do individual features or entire solids? This is going to be a feature. It's going to ask me what feature. I'm going to pick that little cylinder there. It's going to ask me to pick the work plane. One thing I always tell people to watch out for that I am hugely notorious for is it asks you for the feature and then you have to pick to tell it the work plane. I'll go over here and I'll hit feature. I'll pick this, and then I'll pick the work plane. I'm like, oh, I've actually got to tell it to switch selections because you can actually mirror work planes. So if I had a work plane down through the middle of this and I wanted to mirror it with the rest of this, I can select it. So make sure that whenever you go to select the work plane, you turn it on that this is the mirror plane that we want to select. And we'll get into mirroring features a little bit later on in detail. Just wanted to give you kind of a preview of what's coming up. Hit OK. We're going to select this plane again, turn it back off. Do that by right clicking. And I'm going to go ahead and have you turn this plane on. You don't always have to turn this on to create a new sketch, but being new to Inventor, it's easier to turn things on, use them and turn them off than it is to try to use them in the browser. But you can go in here and select in the browser whenever you're creating a new plane. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the plane command up here, and we're going to select that plane we just turned on. We're going to pick, and we're going to hold on our mouse for a second, and we're going to pull it up. We're going to type in 10mm. 10mm off of this is not quite touching. You see there? I could tell it to be just tangent to the top of this, but I didn't need to. So I'll turn the visibility off on my center plane there, and I'll go to Create 2D Sketch. And I am going to rotate this just so it fits in my screen better. I'm going to select that work plane that we had created to create the sketch with. I'm going to turn it off. Once I start my 2D sketch, I don't need that anymore. And to me, it's just a visual impurity or, it's just trash that gets in my way. I like to turn it off and get my screen as clean as possible. So I'm going to draw a rectangle down through here and I'm going to do an all brown. So that means I'm going to do a circle on each end. From the center point out, center point out. So I'm going to end up with something like this. I'm going to constrain it. And the way I like to constrain this is I use the vertical constraint. Oh, once again, I've caught my own trap here. I should have used horizontal there because I've rotated my view around. So I can say horizontal constraint, middle of this line to the middle center point of the object. I'm going to do a vertical constraint to actually hold this in horizontally. So now if I hit escape, you can see everything adjusts properly. So let's give this some measurements here. Say 50 millimeters. And then let's give it a diameter of, let's say 8 millimeters. That should be okay. We could trim this out if we wanted to make the sketch even cleaner. But it's not that big a deal whenever we come in here to go to extrude. To just pick more than one. And whenever I go to extrude, I'm going to make sure I'm on solid. And then I'm going to say 2 next. You can see what that does for me there. Should give you something like this. And so now we should have an object that looks like this. I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to show you this work plane that we created. We created it with an offset. So if I decide that that's not the right size or I need to edit it down the road, I can right click on this and say edit dimension. I can edit this to 15. So now you can see how that work plane is still in relationship to your part. Inventor understands what the work plane should be doing to this part. I'm going to save the before and after so you can look at this and try to follow along with this and see what you can create.